Thank you. So just to break down what my colleague from the Republican majority side of the aisle just advocated for is this bill that they're calling, Modern Worker Act that's going to help you. But really, at the end of the day, let's break down what it is the Republican majority wants to do to the American worker. They want to make it so that multi-billion-dollar companies don't have to pay their taxes. Instead, their employee, has to pay more in taxes. That's what their bill is all about. The Republican majority's bill that is attacking the labor standards that we won after the Great Depression under FDR. What they want is to say big multi-billion-dollar companies don't need to pay overtime to you. No, you need to work over 40 hours a week and not get paid anything extra for it. That's, at the end of the day, what this bill is all about. You're going to continue to hear under this Republican majority that they are for letting you be your own business owner. And if people are indeed independent contractors and small businesses, we should absolutely support them and support that. But what they want to do is to make it so that people who are employees of large corporations can instead be mislabeled as small business owners. But if you're just an employee being told where to go work, when to go work, and to just go do your job for a big corporation, call it a big corporation in big tech or a big corporation in big pharma or a big construction company, they want to be able to say you're your own business, so you pay the taxes instead of the big corporation. They want to say you're your own business, and so you don't get overtime protections. You just have to labor away until the job is done and get paid whatever you're told. So we should not buy some of these continued attacks on what workers won in the 1930s. I've seen this happen in my own district, where a group of workers that clearly basically ran all of YouTube music, and YouTube is a part of Google, wanted to organize into a union. And what we heard from Google was, these aren't our workers, even though this contractor that they work for only exists because of Google, only exists to run YouTube, but they wanted to deny these Austin, Texas-based workers their ability to negotiate for higher wages and higher pay. So don't buy this stuff about how we're trying to help small businesses, when really what this bill would do would make it so that the American worker cannot negotiate with gigantic corporations like Google. There are ways that we could support small businesses and independent workers. I have spent a lot of time working on how big agriculture is jacking up prices, not just at the grocery store for consumers, but is screwing over small businesses and small producers all over America. And so I have a bill that I thought we could get a lot of Republican support for, because many Republican small ranchers and small farmers and small producers and small processors are all for it, to say let's take on the gigantic companies that are paying less and less to small businesses for their product and jacking up prices at the grocery store. We get almost no Republican support for that kind of proposal. But what we are seeing Republican support for is letting companies off for child labor in that same sector. So the Fair Labor Standards Act should actually be protected and supported and expanded for the American worker. And what I've heard this whole committee, I've been watching it from my office, came down here and watched some of the testimony from the other side of the aisle just a moment ago, is all about taking us to pre-1938 labor standards. That's what's in Project 2025. That's what's being executed right now, is making it easier to put children on the cutting room floor to do child labor jobs, not making sure our kids can have a good education and making sure their parents are paid well enough that they don't feel pressure to send their kids to go work in the factory or at the meatpacking plant illegally. We should be talking about giving people more overtime pay. But the bill that's being advocated for right before I got to talk here is to deny more and more Americans their own overtime pay. And in the moment where we're talking about taxes here in Congress, the Republican majority's tax bill is to give billionaires an enormous tax cut. You'll be hearing lots about it. But what people watching at home haven't heard enough about is this bill that is being pushed by the Republican majority to make it so that workers don't get paid for their overtime and then have to pay tons more in taxes because they get called independent contractors when they're really employees. So let's not fall for this scam. Let's actually support our small businesses and support workers by taking on big monopolies and making sure that working people and small businesses get to keep more of their money in their pockets, not less. Thank you. Now yield back.
Mr. Messmer from Indiana.
Thank